The very name of God, I am that I am, has intrigued me for many, many years. When I was a child, I was told this by the adults around me. I am that I am, saith the Lord. And I thought, what in the world does that mean? I am that I am. Then one day a spiritual teacher said to me, I want you to change your life in 24 hours. I want you to walk down the street for 60 minutes today, and I want you to look at everything you see, and I want you to identify personally with that. Whatever it is, the grass, the flowers, other people, the wino, the rich person driving by, the chauffeur-driven Cadillac, whatever it is. Just look at it and say, I am that. So I did that. I walked down the street. I was with a friend. I was saying in my mind, I am that, I am that, I am that. Whatever I looked at. If I saw violence on a TV screen, I am that. If I saw something beautiful happening in the park between a mother and a daughter, I am that. I was just saying that to myself and allowing myself to identify with all that is. And the friend that I was with looked at me and said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm just saying I am that. She said to me, no, you're not that. You're not that, you're you. I said, no, I am that. You don't understand, I really am that. She said, no, you're you. You're really mixed up in your head. I said, listen to me, I am that, I am. And then I said, oh my God. Did you hear what I just said? I just said, I am that. I am. The great name of God, I am that I am, has been misunderstood from the beginning of time. It's simply God's simple way, God's very human way of saying an enormous truth. I am that. I am.
This is the presence of God saying, I am that. Everywhere you see me. People used to say God is in everything. Really, everything is in God.
God isn't just saying that I created that.
God is this field, this presence that is everywhere in its fullness.
God is saying, I am that.
I am that.
I am that person.
I am that.
I am that experience.
I am that.
I am
of God. And so we have, I am that I am is this man in the sky with a white flowing beard and these big long flowing robes.
God made us in its image, and we've been trying to return the favor ever since. Meaning that we've made God in a man's image.
And this I am that I am is out there, ready to decide capriciously whether to bless us or punish us for certain things.
Now, of course, God can't be jealous because God's the only game in town. God is infinite, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. So there's nothing for God to be jealous of. So that was a primitive mindset, projecting human emotions onto forces they didn't understand.
And we project that presence outward instead of having a relationship with that presence inwardly.
If God actually is each one of us, then that would mean that each one of us is an embodiment of God. If that's true, then what would the possibilities be? What could we create?
So we're walking to the wall now, where we're going to join thousands of other people encircling the entire old city of Jerusalem.
But before we go there, we're going to explore 3 keys for unlocking the experience of being an embodiment of God, actually feeling in our bodies. And we're going to use 3 letters to do that, G-O-D, to help make it easier for us to remember. When these keys are applied to our lives, then we'll be able to turn that simple comma into one of the most transformative tools in history. The first key for experiencing ourselves as an embodiment of God is giving. We've all heard that it's better to give than to receive, but is that really true? And how can we give if we don't have enough ourselves? Mystics and saints like St. Francis said that it is in giving that we receive. Is that just a nice spiritual slogan? Well, it really only comes down to one idea that's pretty far out.
That which we give to others, that which we give to the world, we give to ourselves. So whatever one wants to experience in one's own life, one chooses to give away. Now, of course, the thought is, how can I give it away if I don't have it? Because the reason I'm trying to draw it to me is because I don't have it. But the very giving it to another is what causes you to realize you've had it all along.
There's a part of your brain called the limbic brain that is not time-oriented, and it's not object-oriented, meaning it can't tell the difference between itself and others, and it has no sense of past, present, future. That timeless and objectless place in my brain receives what I'm giving because it doesn't know whether it's going out or whether it's coming in.
Whatever it is, that we are creating for someone else, our bodies experience it first. So when we offer the prayers or the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of a peace for our loved ones halfway around the world or between nations, we are experiencing that peace and that healing as well. And in this way, once again, we see the example that giving truly is receiving.
So, if you criticize other people, your brain doesn't know you're criticizing them. It receives it as if it was self-directed. If you care for and give to another person, that part of the brain doesn't know which way it's going, so it always receives. The brain always receives as a gift to itself what is given to another person.
We don't even have physical contact anymore. We don't look at each other because of technology. We barely see each other face to face. So we're missing that connection also. Make that connection. Give back to someone. Let that person cut in line. Let that person in traffic. And I'm telling you, it just keeps, it'll flow, and you'll feel better for it.
That there's a dimension about who we are, that as a result of giving, that's the only way we make that connection. That's why my favorite book says, the greatest among you will be your servant. A servant is a giver.
I think service is misunderstood in our culture because we confuse service with servitude or servant, which to the ego is offensive, it's demeaning, it's like but there is a saying, and I always have used it, to serve is to rule. To be able to be of genuine service really allows you to feel that your energy and your efforts make a difference.
We have to understand that when we perform service for others, we're not really doing that. I mean, it looks like in the illusion that we're doing that we are serving others, but the truth is there's no one else to serve but the self. There's nothing going on in the world except self.
We want to give as God gives, without expectations, without wanting anything in return, just to connect with another person, to serve in the grandest way.
Greatness is your capacity and your willingness to be of service. Service to what? Service to love. Service to peace. Service to beauty. Service to God. Service to joy.
I think that when we do that, when we take our attention off all of our problems and all of our circumstances, and we put it on somebody else, it's the thought of doing that that allows us to lose track of ourselves and lose track of our problems, and that's an act of creation.
Capacity to receive the good that wants to come into their life, and they end up becoming martyrs. They end up burning themselves out because they give, but they never replenish themselves through being available to the presence, expressing through them through receptivity.
The couples who proceed slowly in therapy, the couples who seem to never get there, and no matter what happens in the relationship, they just don't, quote, really improve, have what we call a defense against receiving. They have no receptors for letting stuff in, not only letting love in, but letting compliments in, letting positive statements in, letting appreciation in.
To surrender yourself enough to be able to receive, first from God, the Holy Spirit, and then from those around you, I think it's one of the most sacred acts that we perform.
The complete whole state is an individual that gives with ease and with grace. They're here to give, to share their gifts, their time, their talents, their capacities, while at the same time they're in tune with the fundamental order of existence, their real being, and they're receptive to this flow through them. They can receive love. They can receive intuitive hits. They can receive wisdom and guidance. They can receive the beauty that is everywhere. So there's a complete cycle, and ultimately giving and receiving are one.
Most of us have heard prophets and sages and enlightened beings say that we're all one. But we look out at the world and we see separation everywhere. So how can that be true? Does that mean that I'm one with Jack the Ripper as well as Mother Teresa? Does that mean that I'm one with you? Are these just airy-fairy ideas? Or could this be the next step in all of us realizing that we're actually an embodiment of God?
The fundamental principle that you find encoded in all major religions, all authentic spiritual paths, is this spiritual idea called oneness. That we are at one with life, we're at one with the presence of God, we're at one with each other.
We find that in all the traditions. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. One presence, one power. The Atman, the Buddha nature, the Christed one. It's in quantum physics. Rupert Sheldrake, the unified field, one presence everywhere.
This oftentimes doesn't seem to square with physical evidence, primarily because the average individual sees the world through the filter of a sense of separation. They see the world through their senses.
And if you're more in the ego, then you're going to sense survival fear, this angst that you've got to get yours, that it's all about getting.
Through spiritual practices, you go beyond the sensory realm and you enter into a field where you see, not with eyesight, but with insight, that everything is connected. The scientists, the quantum scientists would call it a unified field that is everywhere in its fullness, that is undivided.
That's what being awake means, is to say, well, I'm dancing in this illusion of separateness, but I'm not separate.
For once an individual is broken through, then all the things on the surface that seem separate begin to work together for our good, because we're now in tune with everything on the invisible level. So you end up working not harder, but you end up working a lot cleaner, a lot easier, because you're in tune with all of life. So you're not trying to make something happen on the surface, you're trying to make something welcome on the invisible side of life. So oneness is the primary principle. It's the linchpin of power. We're at one with God, one with love, one with life, one with all the power that there is.
Until we're willing to embrace the totality of our humanity and our divinity, we can never be in oneness, because we're taught to say, I'm not that. We're taught to say, I see something I don't like, so I don't want to be that, and we push that part of ourselves aside.
And at times, all of us, including myself, at times find it hard to be at one with someone or someones that either don't agree with us or that have values that would be we believe to be totally destructive.
These days, I'm having a lot of trouble with phony people. And I can see that I don't like that part of myself, that I'm always searching for ways to be more authentic and more real and show more of myself, even as a teacher.
We see that are very negative oftentimes have the effect of taking us to the next stage of our evolution.